For thousands of years, history books erased them. Governments silenced them. Societies told them their only role was in the home. And yet, despite every obstacle, women shaped the entire course of human civilization. Here is the staggering truth. Historians estimate that women account for less than 17% of all named individuals recorded in major historical texts. 17%. And even within that tiny fraction, many of those stories were distorted, minimized, or outright stolen by men who took credit for their work. In the next 10 minutes, you are going to meet the women who refused to be erased. The queens who commanded empires. The scientists whose discoveries changed medicine forever. The revolutionaries who rewrote laws that governed millions. And we are going to reveal something that almost no history class ever teaches you, the fact that some of the most world-changing moments in the last 2,000 years were quietly engineered by women that most people have never even heard of. One of them died in complete obscurity, not knowing that her work would save over 1 billion lives. That story is coming. Stay with us. To understand why these women were so remarkable, you first have to understand what they were working against. For the majority of recorded history, women in most civilizations were legally classified closer to property than to people. In ancient Rome, women could not vote, could not hold public office, and required a male guardian to conduct most legal transactions. In medieval Europe, a woman's land and wealth automatically transferred to her husband upon marriage. In 19th century America, married women could not own property, sign contracts, or keep their own wages. These were not cultural suggestions. These were laws enforced by governments. And yet, within these suffocating systems, certain women found ways to accumulate power, knowledge, and influence that echoed across centuries. Cleopatra VII of Egypt is perhaps the most famous woman in ancient history, and she is also one of the most misunderstood. Born in 69 BC, she was not Egyptian by blood, she was Macedonian Greek, a descendant of Ptolemy I, one of Alexander the Great's generals. But what made Cleopatra extraordinary was not her lineage or her famous romances with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. It was her intellect. She was reportedly the first ruler of her dynasty to actually learn the Egyptian language. She also spoke 9 languages in total, including Ethiopian, Hebrew, and Aramaic. She used this linguistic mastery as a political weapon, negotiating directly with foreign leaders without interpreters, building alliances that kept Egypt independent for decades longer than it might have survived otherwise. When she finally died in 30 BC, Rome absorbed Egypt within months. The empire had been held together largely by the force of her personality and political genius. Moving forward nearly 1,000 years, we find Wu Zetian, the only woman in Chinese history to ever assume the title of Empress Regnant, meaning she ruled in her own name, not as a consort or regent. She governed the Tang dynasty and later her own Zhou dynasty from 690 to 705 AD, and her reign was transformative. She reformed the civil service examination system, making it more merit-based and reducing the power of old aristocratic families. She expanded the Chinese empire's borders and developed an efficient state bureaucracy that became a model for future dynasties. Her enemies called her ruthless, and history has often painted her as a villain. But scholars today point out that male emperors who made the same calculated political decisions she made were called strong leaders. She made them and was called a monster. The double standard followed her into the history books. But here is what nobody talks about when it comes to influential women, the scientists. The ones whose contributions were buried under the names of their male colleagues and only recovered generations later. Rosalind Franklin is perhaps the most painful example. In the early 1950s, Franklin was a brilliant X-ray crystallographer working at King's College London. Her meticulous work produced Photo 51, an extraordinarily clear X-ray diffraction image of DNA. That photograph was shared with James Watson and Francis Crick without her knowledge or consent. They used it as a critical piece of evidence to construct their famous double helix model of DNA. Watson and Crick won the Nobel Prize in 1962. Franklin had died of ovarian cancer in 1958 at the age of 37, and Nobel Prizes are not awarded posthumously. She never received credit in her lifetime for one of the most important scientific discoveries of the 20th century. And then there is Lise Meitner, an Austrian-Swedish physicist who was a pioneer in nuclear physics and was the first person to correctly explain the process of nuclear fission. Her colleague Otto Hahn received the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1944 for the discovery of fission. Meitner's name was left off entirely. Albert Einstein reportedly called her the German Marie Curie, which itself tells you something. Even the compliments given to brilliant women were filtered through comparison to other women rather than recognized on their own terms. Element 109 on the periodic table, Meitnerium, is named in her honor. It took the scientific community decades to offer even that much acknowledgement. Now here is a question worth sitting with. If these women could achieve what they achieved while fighting active suppression, legal discrimination, and institutional erasure, what might they have accomplished in a world that supported them? The answer, historians argue, is that we are still living in a diminished version of human potential because of those lost contributions. Moving into the political sphere, few figures match the reach and longevity of Catherine the Great of Russia. Born Sophie of Anhalt-Zerbst in 1729, she was a minor German princess who married into the Russian royal family and eventually orchestrated a coup against her own husband, Peter III, seizing power in 1762. She then ruled for 34 years, one of the longest reigns in Russian history. Under Catherine, Russia expanded its territory by absorbing Crimea and parts of Poland. She modernized the Russian legal system, promoted education, and corresponded extensively with Enlightenment philosophers like Voltaire and Diderot. She founded the Hermitage Museum in St. Petersburg, which today houses one of the greatest art collections on the planet. Historians estimate that Russia's borders expanded by approximately 200,000 square miles during her reign. She transformed a struggling empire into one of the dominant powers of Europe. Eleanor Roosevelt reshaped what it meant to be a First Lady and then went far beyond it. After her husband Franklin D. Roosevelt died in 1945, Eleanor did not retreat from public life. She became the first chair of the United Nations Human Rights Commission and was instrumental in drafting the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted in 1948. That document has been translated into 522 languages and remains the most translated document in the world. It forms the legal foundation for countless international human rights laws. One woman's persistence helped create the global framework through which nations are held accountable for how they treat their own citizens. And we cannot close without speaking about Harriet Tubman. Born into slavery around 1822, Tubman escaped in 1849 and then did something almost incomprehensibly brave. She went back 19 times. She personally guided approximately 70 enslaved people to freedom using the Underground Railroad. She was nicknamed Moses, and enslavers reportedly offered the equivalent of hundreds of thousands of dollars in today's money for her capture. During the Civil War, she served as a spy, a scout, and a nurse for the Union Army. In 1863, she led the Combahee River Raid, liberating more than 700 enslaved people in a single operation, the largest mass liberation in American history up to that point. She was never captured. Not once. What unites all of these women across centuries and continents is not just their individual brilliance. It is the fact that they operated in systems designed to stop them. Every achievement came at extraordinary personal cost. Many were ridiculed, imprisoned, or erased from the record entirely. And yet the impact of their decisions, discoveries, and defiance can be measured in borders redrawn, diseases defeated, and millions of lives transformed. The real lesson of their stories is not simply that great women existed.